Back at the McLean Barbershop, Talk of the Town, 918, Season 2, Episode 2. We got a special guest, Miss Iciss Tillis, real deal at basketball. Played ball at Cassia Hall, McDonald's All-American, professional WNBA, played overseas for a long time. Iciss, we really appreciate you coming. You're our first female guest.
Oh, thank you.
Had to make it special for somebody like you.
Yeah. Right, representing for the girls.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So just tell everybody where you come from and what got you into basketball.
Well, born and raised right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Representing all day.
Yeah.
And I literally started playing basketball secretly. No one knew, at Burroughs.
Okay.
I was in the kindergarten, and I would be, playing. They had this basketball goal, and it was like this little dirt space. And I would just kind of like shoot, and I would always make them. And I kind of knew in my head, I was like, I always be making my shots. And I had this weird desire to always kind of be there and wanted to shoot one more time. Mm-hmm. And it sort of developed till at the Maybe Center, Northside Maybe.
Maybe baby.
They would have these field trips, and I would be very clever and find ways to skip so I could have the gym all to myself.
I got you.
Well, you was dedicated early.
Very early. And it could be because, I'm playing, there are all these guys and stuff in the gym. I'm the only girl. And, they just kind of like dominated, and, they had these games set up and I could never get in. And so I figured when everyone was gone, I'd have the gym and I would just be playing all by myself, and I loved it. All right. And one day this lady came in. Her name is Coach Sheila. Mm-hmm. She came in and she was like, I see you in here all the time. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm just, playing or whatever. I don't really like going on the field trips. Had a gym to myself. And she was like, well, I'm thinking about starting a team here at the Maybe Center or whatever. Do you want to play? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And so she gave me a little permission slip, and I went home and I gave it to my mom, and she signed it. And that night, me and Coach Sheila, we played one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And she beat me, and it literally devastated me. And the next day we come back, and I was looking for her, and she wasn't there. And I was like, where is this lady? And I have my permission slip. I wait for her the next day, and I finally saw her later that week. And I was like, here's my permission slip. And she was like, all right. She was like, well, here's information for the team. And I was like, can I play you one more time?
You got to get my give back. Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, okay, come on. And I was like, you said you played in college, right? She was like, yeah. And so we go back out there, and then she beat me again. And I was just like, why does she keep beating me? Right. Like, she has she knows like what I'm going to do next. And, and at this point I had no formal training, and I kept playing her. Like, every time I would see her, I'd be like, can we please play again? Until I finally beat her.
Gotcha.
And then we had our first game. And I was like, hey, Mom, my coach said that I was going to be a star tonight, so you should really come to the game. Right. She said starter, but I didn't know what that term was.
Gotcha.
I was like, she said I'm going to be a star, so you should come to the game. And so her and my grandfather came, and they had the goals lowered. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I remember.
Bitty ball.
Yeah, and I had like 40 points.
Dang. Wow.
And
how old was you?
I want to say probably first grade.
Okay, golly.
And I remember afterwards, my grandfather was like, he talking about, girl, you sure can't play. And I was like, I made all of my free. It was just so like exciting to me. Like, I couldn't get enough of it. And that was the beginning.
I got you.
Yeah. And so long story short about Coach Sheila. So when I moved back to Tulsa in September of this year, how can I say this without giving it away? I was at the airport for something legal. And when I walked into this legal meeting, I had on my mask. It was masking up time still. And this lady comes up to me, and she has on her mask, and she just sort of stands in front of me like this. And I was looking at her like, can I help you? And she just kind of like looked at me, and I was like, what? And she kind of lowers her mask. It was Coach Sheila, and I almost died. I was like, oh my God. And I like freaked out, and one of the partners at the firm was like, what's the big deal? I was like, this is my first basketball coach.
Yeah, I got you.
She is like the everything.
I got you.
She means so much to me, having that experience. And a lot of, people always, remember that first, but very powerful influence in my life.
I got you.
And so we've been able to like reconnect. And,
Right, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say you grew up out of Northfield, Maybes, baby.
That's
Going to high school, you chose Casher Hall. Why didn't you choose a school out north or something like that? What made you guys go to Casher Hall?
To be honest, my mom was really focused on education,
Gotcha.
on academics, and of course Booker T is an excellent academic school. But I left Burroughs in second grade and went to Holy Family from second through eighth.
I got you.
And then from 8th through 12th, Cassia, and that was just, my mother's decision. Of course, when I look back, a lot of my really close friends that I played AU with were, on Booker T's team, and we used to always
Renita
talk
on
about,
that team?
Yes.
Okay, well, we got to shout out to Renita for setting this up, too.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Renita.
Yes. Look, that's my girl. But, that I was still able to maintain those, those bonds and that friendship in the season that mattered the most, which was AAU.
Exactly. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And I did whoop that ass when we would play Booker T, and they know it. You can ask
you did.
them. I was like, yeah, but I was like, man, how did Booker T lose to Cassia?
Iciss.
So how was your campaign at Cash Hall? Did you start your freshman year?
Yes.
Start your sophomore year?
Yes.
When did you become? You was already Iciss Tillis, but when did you become on a national level?
6th grade.
Wow. So that's when everybody, I got you. And when did you know Iciss was going to be Iciss, though? Like, was it 6th grade? Like, you knew
After that first game.
When you had 40.
I knew it.
Got
I knew
you.
it. I was, if you ask my mom, you'd be like, she was just absolutely obsessed. I used to sleep with my basketball in my bed.
How tall was you in the 6th grade?
I was probably at least 5'10" at that point. Very tall.
Okay. So what leads us to my next question. You're this All-American, McDonald's All-American. When did you receive your first offer?
6th grade, I started getting letters.
Got you. And but official offer was high school?
So they technically cannot.
It was kind of different.
Offer you a letter.
Yeah.
Not to be like all legal, but they technically can't offer you a scholarship until I believe your senior year when that period opens up.
Right.
So, but 6th grade, I was getting recruited heavily by TU, and so I was very obsessed. And so when I was at Holy Family, what I would do was I would take the bus because my mom worked, and I was like, dude, this is perfect because when I'm done with school, take the bus to TU, and the coach was like, yeah, you can play with the girls.
And you was killing the 6th grade.
And so every day after school, I would take that bus straight to TU, and I'd play against the TU women's basketball team.
You was in the 6th grade?
6th grade, and I did that
I got you.
all the way through.
So that was big part of your development.
Yeah, because I used to be, extremely competitive, and it would drive me nuts not to be able to get competition from my teammates.
I got you.
And stuff. And so I was like, I gotta play against the girls, and it was very, like for me, like it was just it made my day.
Okay.
Every day I was just like, gotta go hoop Monday through Friday, and I did that all the way up until 8th grade.
Got you. Okay.
So you said you was getting recruited in 6th grade. What made you choose Duke University?
I took a visit. So my junior year, I got a call from this coach out in Santa Barbara, and he had this Nike team. And he was like, hey, I'd love for you and Elena Beard to come and play.
Lefty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is she? And she was just like, He was like, man, she's this really good player out of Louisiana. I think you two would play really well together. Like nobody really knows about her because she just kind of started playing basketball a few years ago, but she's like really good. And I was like, okay. And so he gave me like her phone number and stuff, and we talked a couple times, and then we flew out to Santa Barbara, and she and I both stayed with the family of one of girls on the team, and we trained for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then we went to Oregon to play the.
This
Nike.
Was your junior year?
Yeah, in high school.
I got you.
And so we played in the Oregon Trails tournament, and our first practice, we get out there and they put Elena and I on the same team, which was a mistake.
Yeah, I was killing.
Yeah, it was, and I remember there are these 2 girls who were hailed very highly at the time, and Elena was extremely shy. She knew who I was, but I didn't know who she was,
Right.
and so a shot goes up, and I get the rebound, and I just see kind of Elena jotting that way, and I just threw it at the goal, and she caught it right there. It was just like, and I was like, oh shit! I was like, and then she like came back down, and the girl, this point guard, she was crossing half court. Elena ripped her and stole, and so for the first like 10 possessions, the girl couldn't get half court, and I was like this.
She's a real deal.
I want to play with her.
I was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it, as she was just as psycho as I was.
I got you.
And so we shared that together. And so I finally had somebody that was literally a psychopath with basketball.
I got you.
And from that point on, it was literally
You
I
and
was
her.
like, we were like, oh my God, we have to play together. We're like, we have to play together.
Okay.
And so we get to the Oregon Trails or whatever, like our first game together, it was a show out. It was we put on a show, and everybody was like, who in the hell is this Elena Beard? I was like, and she's a lefty.
Yeah.
And what I never like saw before was someone, girls knew she would only let you come across half court if she wanted to.
Damn.
That was kind of so it would humiliate a lot of players.
So y'all goal was we playing together in college.
Yeah, and so we started talking about, like, after that Oregon tournament, then I went on to the Nike tournament. She had dislocated her shoulder and was out for the rest of the season, and we were like crying, and I was like, well, maybe you could just come to the Nike tournament and just watch the shit. I was like, because everybody was like, where is Elena? I was like, she's resting, like her shoulder's all messed up. And so that was and so we were still communicating. I was like, hey, I've got these letters from these schools. Who are you going to take your visits with? She was like, well, I'm getting recruited by Duke too. And she was also being recruited by Kansas. And so we're like, let's take our Duke trip together. And so we ended up being going as a package deal.
And did the coaches know that at the time? Like, hey, we going together?
Well, yeah, they could. Yeah, everybody
could tell.
knew. Yeah,
I got you.
That's kind of how it. All
So
came about.
your first year at Duke, and we all know it's a big jump from middle school ball to high school to college. What was your biggest adjustment when you stepped foot on Duke, or did you have issues?
I didn't have issues in terms of like competing, so I was very well prepared. I will say, I'm telling you, like coming out of here, I played with the boys, like what you must do, and then of course my AU coach was Roy Gage.
Okay.
And so my fundamentals were sound. Okay. So one of the things with Coach Gage was he was really big on being able to use your left just as equal as your right. And when I was at Holy Family, when we won state, I'd broken my right wrist, and so I refused to miss a game. And I would just take off my splint and wrap it up in an ace bandage, and I would just tape it to my stomach, and I'd play with my left hand.
Wow.
And I became very good with my left. And so a lot of people sort of knew me as the player that could go left or right. It doesn't really matter. And it really, that's what developed the left hand, and he developed it further.
I got you.
And he was really big in the conditioning, and all that. So he was really good for a psycho player like myself. Right. And he really helped me to take it to the next level.
Okay.
He was there with me when I made USA team, going to my sophomore year in high school. Coach Gage was there, so that he had me super duper prepared. The most difficult part about transitioning from high school to college is definitely
Being away.
the mental and being away.
Yeah.
My mom, like one time, she was very patient. And then one time she was like, listen, bring your ass home then.
For real?
My mom told me
She
to
was like,
stay.
bring your ass home then. I'm sick of it. I'm up there every month. She was like, if you're so miserable, then come on home.
And this was just your freshman year, though?
My freshman year. I mean, and Elaine and I were both equally homesick. It was so sad how depressed we were. You know, after practice, I would just go to Elena's room. We'd order, food, and we'd watch movies all night. And just, I'd be like, I just really wish that I could just be at home with my friends. People at Duke are weird.
Okay, let me ask you this. You say that. So I've always wanted to ask a Duke person, do y'all have the best student section in college?
Yes, we do.
Hands down.
Hands down. It is a culture.
It is, isn't it?
It is a culture. And you don't really understand it really or appreciate it until you play UNC for the first time. And like the seniors and stuff on the team, they
He's
had
a UNC
kept.
fan.
Really?
So
Maybe on the bedside, because like for me, I never lost to UNC. We were 12-0.
I got you.
And I ride on that.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
that's a big deal.
It's a real hate thing.
I don't even know what it feels like to lose against UNC.
Gotcha.
But I know what the atmosphere is like when they lose to UNC, like the men. It was like everyone on the campus was depressed and moping around for a couple days. I was like, oh, these people are really serious.
Yeah.
And when you play that first game,
You understand.
you understand.
So was you
It was
ever,
a war.
when the men's played, was you ever a camera crazy or no?
We would be like at the game, but we would like sit.
I got it.
So your career at Duke, did you ever go to the Final Four?
Yes, we went to the Final Four my sophomore and junior year.
Now, did y'all win? Did y'all win it?
No, we didn't win.
Who
We
y'all
didn't
lose
win. My freshman year, my sophomore year, we lost to OU.
Oh, yeah, that's
Pairs. No, they did have the Pairs.
No,
No,
it was
that's the year they made
Stacey
it.
Dales was on the team, and Lanisha
and the men made it
Caulfield.
too that year.
Were the men on the team? Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was a
Yep.
dual,
They
a
made it to
dual
the Final
year.
Four. Yep.
And I was booed the entire time,
What? Because he's playing OU.
Yeah, and I think I dropped like 21 on them in the second half, but they still were able to pull it out. And Coach,
I love
it. And Coach Cole, like I went on an unofficial visit to OU, but it was a very intense game. Now the reason why we lost because we only had 8 players. So that year, we had 2 or 3 players that transferred elsewhere. So we had 8 players literally for 90% of the season.
Wow, gotcha.
And so I would say everyone, that year, to be so young, we stepped up mentally big time, and you had to play smart. And so this was the transition from like that high school mindset to, even though I was a sophomore, I had to think more like a junior or senior. Fouls, we didn't have.
Yeah, you can't. Exactly.
It was like, but we went undefeated that year until the Final Four. But from that period up until one game my senior year, we didn't lose any games in the ACC.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, take us. So you had a wonderful career, Duke. Did you know? Yeah, you knew about getting drafted. Like, was the WNBA big at that time?
Yes.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So take us through that process. Like, when did you get drafted? What number? And what was your emotions the day you got drafted?
It was a very emotional day, even though my coach tried to sabotage.
Your Duke coach?
Yes, me going to the WNBA.
So you left after your junior year?
I left my senior year.
Oh, you could come back.
And no, she just, for whatever reason, tried to present it to me a couple weeks before the draft that I wasn't going to be drafted. Mm-hmm. It's very bizarre. I know it's very strange, but it happened. The only people that knew about this until May of 2020 was when it kind of all came out. Mm-hmm. I had this release after 16 years of holding that in. But yeah, she tried to, sabotage my career. And the only people that knew about this was myself, my mother, and the then Renee Brown. I think she was like either director of player development or deputy commissioner or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it wasn't for Renee Brown calling me, because I wasn't going to even go, and I was trying to figure out how to tell my mom, Mom, I'm not going to go to the draft. I'm just going to watch it on TV.
Because you think you're not going to get drafted.
Yeah, and so because I kept ignoring my mom's phone call, she was like, "Will you please tell me what time y'all are getting to the final or to New York or whatever for the draft?" And then I finally, like 3 days before, I was like, "I'm not going." She was like, "What?" And I told her, and she was like, "Oh, the devil is a lie." She hung up the phone, and then the next thing I know, she's calls me back on three-way with Renee Brown. And Renee was like, "I don't know what the hell is going on, but I could assure you, you're going in the first round." She was like, "What's going on?" And I was so devastated. I wouldn't even tell anybody really what was happening. You have to remember, too, I was, 20 at the time.
Yeah.
And even though it's my senior year, I feel like I'm still under control of this creature.
Right.
And I just... That was, I will say, that was probably the most devastating thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm just now sharing, this since 2020.
Gotcha. Wow.
Basketball meant everything to me. So for that to happen, it just really messed me up.
So when did you get drafted?
What pick was you?
Number 11.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
To the Detroit Shock.
Detroit Shock. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're going to take a quick break real quick. Still at the McLean Barbershop, Talk of the Town, 918. We got Iciss Tillis.
There is truly no place like home. Right here in Eastern Oklahoma, Bravado Wireless provides the best unlimited talk, text, and data for only $40 a month. We believe in strong, connected communities. That's why we live stream community events like local football games. You may not know us by name, but we'll be at the same festivals and cheering for our kids on the same sidelines. Because we live where you live. Visit bravadowireless.com or visit one of our stores, where we make it easy to join our family. Bravado Wireless. We believe in the power of connection.
This episode is brought to you by the Smith Family Agency. It's simple. They make sure you have the right insurance coverage on your home, auto, or business. They also have the best prices for insurance in Oklahoma. Call my guy Brian Smith with questions, and he will give you a quick quote. We trust him to always do the right thing for you and your family. Call Smith Family Agency at 918-417-7400 and tell them the Bubby sent you.
Back from break, back with Iciss. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Talk of the Town 918 edition. Okay, so you got drafted, number 11. How many years did you play in the WNBA?
So I did WNBA and overseas from 04 through 2011.
Oh, okay.
I played, I think my last year in WNBA was, I want to say 07 or 08.
So, but you hear now, like they say, overseas get paid more than the WNBA.
Oh, yes, definitely.
It's definitely. What else was the difference than WNBA and overseas?
Well, I would say like the way that they, the women's basketball players I think are treated is better, and
Overseas is better.
right, and it's probably because overseas, you're allowed a certain number of foreigners, and by foreigners you could be, if you're not part of the European Union, then you're a foreigner. So it could be an American and a Brazilian player, but you're only allowed two, unless you have American players that have European passports, which is the game that a lot of players are able to, especially the Caucasian ones, because they can get European ancestry or whatever. So that's kind of how that works. But it's like where Brittany Grinder, for example, Russia is the top paying team for women's basketball players, and it's also the best league overseas. Mainly because the Russians are bigger, they can compete a little bit better with the WNBA players. A lot of them also, play in college, in the States. So it makes for the best league. And there was a guy who owned several, a big team. His name was Shabtai. And I played on his team in Spartak. But he single-handedly changed the way the WNBA players are paid overseas. Him.
I got you.
And so asking WNBA players, and this is before this Brittany Griner situation. I was like, so what are you guys gonna do if Russia stops paying? Then what? Like, that's gonna cause the market to shift back to paying.
I got you.
Pennies, and so then you're kind of, because one of the reason why I retired was, it was the 2008 housing recession, and it really messed up everything, especially in terms of banking abroad, because normally banks and stuff, they have these, charitable type missions or sponsorships. They got rid of all of that, and so I was like, my offers for what? I was like, no, I'm not going overseas for that. And it sparked me to start immediately transitioning to.
I got you.
Yeah.
Retire. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a 2-part question. I'm going to ask you the first part. Don't name a Tulsa girl first. Okay. Name some of the top players you played against from Duke, WNBA, or overseas. Give us about 3 or 4 or 5. And then after that, give me some of your top Tulsa players you played against.
I will say professional players.
I know Elena Beard is one of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She's probably the greatest defender of all time, at least in the guards position from 1 through, I would say 1 through 4 she could guard.
Okay.
I would say, a player that used to give me a hard time was Shamika Christensen.
Okay. What school did she go to?
She went to University of Arkansas. Okay. And we played together. For the New York Liberty.
Oh, okay.
But excellent, great competition. She's super duper athletic. She could shoot the 3 as well. She could play, the 3 and 4. She wasn't as tall as me, but I always had to really play when I'm playing against Shamika.
Give me 3 more.
I would say Kara Braxton Braxton in her heyday in terms of big girl. Kara Braxton, she could play.
Gotcha.
She could hoop. I mean, she was very powerful big girl, but finesseful at the same time, but very powerful. Excellent player.
2 more.
I would say Tina Thompson.
Tough. Is she still playing?
No, she's coaching, I think, at University of Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. Tough. Used to wear the lipstick.
Yeah, tough. Because she's, we don't play the same position, so you have to guard. That was when I started. I was like, yeah. See, when I turned pro, that was when I really had to play against players that could shoot the outside like me. That was my advantage. Was they'd be like, beat the shit out of Iciss, try to beat her up the whole game, even though I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a physical game.
Yeah.
But, they would just be so extra with trying to, be super physical and, make them come guard me outside and do my thing. And they put a guard on, then I take you down. And so, but to play against another player like that, I realized, I was like, yeah, it is difficult.
Oh, okay.
You cannot rest.
Yeah, for sure.
This bitch can shoot the 3. So you have to go out there. She will hit that in your face. And when you get 3s in your face, it's embarrassing. So it's very tough. So, yeah, Tina Thompson.
One
more. Then I would say, Deanna Nolan.
I remember that name. What school did she go to?
She went to. Did Deanna go to Georgia? I think she went to University.
I remember that name.
Yeah, she went to the same school as Kara Braxton, but she's older than Kara.
Okay.
And she was already in the league when she played with me in Detroit. She was the coldest tool, period. Telling you. She could jump just stop and shoot. Her vertical was like a
50
dude.
or something. Yeah.
You know who Maya Moore is?
Yeah.
She was the first Maya Moore.
Got you. Okay.
I got
Yeah,
you.
but played like a straight guy.
Got you.
Like the way that she was built or whatever, but there's not a player that can elevate on a dime like that.
I got you. Okay.
But she's, in my opinion, the greatest 2.
Okay. Now you gave us those. Now give us some of the top Tulsa players. We got to give Renita a credit.
Yes, so Rakita's a great player.
Rakita, I say Rakita. Yeah, Rakita.
Yeah. Also, we've got there was a lady that played at for Bristow, Jamie Hawkins.
Okay.
I'm a Hawkins, so we always wonder, like, are we related?
Yeah, okay.
But Jamie and I, we also played together for Coach Gage.
Okay.
And I know that she has sons that play in college. She has like 2 twin boys.
Okay.
I'm not sure what their last names are, but she was she was like, if she had stayed on it, then she could have been like a Kara Braxton.
I got you.
Very similar talent. Smooth as hell. Big, but super smooth. Like, she had a very, very lovely game to watch.
Give us 2 more. 2 more.
I would say, there was what's her name? Keisha. She was real wild. She played in Oklahoma City. Her name is Keisha.
She's light skinned.
Yeah.
She was a guard.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know you're talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Is it
Watson?
Watkins?
Yeah.
Watson.
Yep,
She
yep,
was nice.
I had a scar on my no, here we go.
Because of her.
This scar right here. That was when we won the championship. State. But she gave me this.
I got you.
Yeah, she was nice though.
Yeah. She gave me this, and she was wild. And so they're like certain players that you play, and because they're so wild, you feel like they are physically out to get you, and so it makes you put on a different game face, when you play them. And so my whole thing was, I was like, this bitch is trying to fucking kill me, and I'm going to kill her, but I can't foul out. So how am I gonna? So that was sort of, I remember how she made me think then, like, I had to stay composed because she was so wild. I mean, I'm coming out there bloody. I had to have some little plastic surgery work.
Wow.
To fix this keloid that she put on my face.
I got you.
But Keisha, shout out to her.
Yeah.
Great player. And she's, congratulated me through my career.
Okay.
Very, very great,
One more.
There was another young lady that played in somewhere in Oklahoma City. I can't think of her name, but she was a post player. She was pretty decent.
I got you.
She
Just can't remember her name.
I cannot remember her name for the life of me.
Okay.
But to remember someone's name, I would say Stephanie Stoglin was a very solid.
Yeah, I thought you would say her.
She was a very solid post player. She used to always get very, very physical with me as well. And so, those types of players really help to work on the mental. Like, how do you, counter a player that is this way, cannot foul out, or you lose the game. Yeah. And so those things I'll always take with me. Stephanie and I, we never got to play together, on the same team, but I would definitely say that she was one of the top post players coming out of Tulsa. Absolutely.
So growing up in Tulsa, a lot of people know you as Quick Tillis' daughter. How was that growing up? And for the people that don't know, he was the first person or the only person to take Mike Tyson a distance in a fight, right?
Yes.
So how was that though?
It was kind of got used to it. Have you guys ever met my dad?
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, he's a character.
Gotcha.
We obviously got the physical ability from him. He wasn't there, to be honest. But I had a wonderful stepfather, but Sports Illustrated, they did a story on he and I my freshman year, and they came out to Tulsa, and I was wearing that jersey, and he had on his cowboy stuff and boxing gloves. That
I remember that color.
Big spread, and it was I think the title was famous daughters and their famous fathers. It was like Layla Ali and her dad, and my dad and I, and a couple others. But there was he did help me one particular time. I remember he asked me how my wind was on the court, and he was like, yeah, you just like me, so the iridologist told me, to cut out all the sugars and stuff. Don't drink orange juice. Don't, don't eat bread or anything like that, before your game. And he gave me all these dietary tips. And so, me wanting to please old dad, I implemented those things, and I had a huge game.
Oh, gotcha.
I played extremely well, and really kind of destroyed this one girl's confidence that I played against. I felt kind of bad for her, after, because I could see that it really had impacted her mentally. But in my head, I was also like, damn, I done got one of the tricks. And so, being the psycho that I was,
You did it
every game, and so it became a part of my ritual. So, 48 hours for a game, I did not.
No sweets, no breads.
None of that. And I mean, it was a world of a difference.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
So you said you was done playing basketball in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
How was that transition from playing to what you're doing now?
Mm-hmm. So my grandfather, he saw that I was getting frustrated with basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and he had Parkinson's at the time. And whenever I would whenever I'd get ready to go back overseas, I'd always go to my grandparents' house, give them kisses, and say goodbye. And I was alone with my grandfather, and he had a conversation with me in private, and he goes, you've done everything that you could do, and we are very proud of you, and it's okay to retire. And it was and he gave me the okay to go ahead and do that. And my grandfather, he loved Thurgood Marshall, and he loved Barbara Jordan. He loved them. So anytime they was on TV, it was like, come in, sit down, and you're going to watch them. And I always promised my grandfather that I was going to be the first lawyer in the family.
Gotcha.
And so he passed away when I came back from overseas. This was in 2011. And I was alone with him, and I was like, Papa, I was like, I think I'm ready to go ahead and make that transition, retire, and go ahead and go to law school. And so then I went to the kitchen, and 2 minutes later, he had passed.
Oh, wow.
And so
Wow.
I've always been a woman of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, well, guess that decision's made for me. And I called my agent and, gave him the middle finger.
Yeah.
And the Monday following my grandfather's funeral, I enrolled in Kaplan and started preparing for the LSAT. Stayed with my grandmother for 6 months because I was terrified that she'd die. Without her. And I was like, you're going to have to get the internet. Because I'm getting ready to start studying to try to get to law school. And that's literally how it came about. I just went ahead and fulfilled my promise for my grandfather. And so fast forward to the following year, and this is the best part of the story.
Uh-huh.
You know how on Facebook it'll populate a bunch of friends?
Right.
So I see this Donna Tillis populate on Facebook. And so my freshman year at Duke, my coach had called me to the office, some lady is calling saying that she's your sister. And I was like, she lives in South Carolina. And so I'm calling my mom. I was like, do I have a sister in South Carolina? And my mom was like, I don't think so. We didn't know anything about it. So I told my coach, I was like, it must be whatever. Yeah. So this friend on Facebook, this Donna Tillis, it was Columbia, South Carolina. And she had a post oh my gosh, first day of second year law school is hell. What have I done? And I was like, So I sent her, I was like, do we know each other? She was like, yeah, I'm your sister. And I was like this. I was like, you're in law school too? I was like, I'm actually getting ready to start law school in 2 weeks. And so that October of my 1L year, my sister came to visit me in Houston, and we've been inseparable ever since. Anyway, she just made partner at her firm in December.
Okay, well, congratulations on that.
It's a really, really, really cool story, and she's really been one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I grew up as an only child, and so the way that the Most High works is very incredible.
Right.
He could sort of turn a bad situation into something very positive.
Amen.
So now you're doing a law firm. Now, as we wrap it up, I want you to look in that camera and give the young ladies or the youth just a word of encouragement.
Young ladies, I will tell you that the sky is truly the limit. There is absolutely nothing that you cannot do I am a living testimony of it. You obviously don't see a lot of retired professional athletes transition to the legal profession, but it was something I really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And basketball did give me the skills of working hard, being resilient, triumphing through pressure, not folding through pressure, and just that that divine confidence that you could develop at an early age from failure and getting up after failure. Yeah, it really can persevere. The overcoming the dumb athlete stereotype was in the back of my mind was my challenge. And I tell my friends and stuff, who a couple of them are still playing, but those are retired. Listen, not everybody is meant to be a coach. Right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Most great players don't make great coaches anyway. Right. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to run camps if you don't want to. Right. If you want to be a doctor, you can do that. Yeah, man. You literally have to start. Be like, well, how do I become a doctor? Well, let's say you got to have a bachelor's. You need to be pre-med. And so you write that down and you start tackling it one by one. And you'll look around and you'll be done with that part. Then it's like, oh, my God, I'm getting ready to go. Meanwhile, these other people are still stuttering, talking about what they want to do, but they don't actually what we call step out on faith. Yeah, I'm a master at that. Right. And I'm a master at manifesting what I want by taking action. If it's if it's truly what you really want, I promise you it can be accomplished. You have to just start tackling it, and you'll also have to overcome what everybody else is doing. Right. And that's a big piece that a lot of people, you might be in a family of haters, right, where people really trying to prevent you from being great. They see it in you, obviously, distracting you. You might just have to go somewhere and be by yourself and not even tell people what you're doing. But if it's what you really want to do, then you start tackling it and you don't let anybody stop you. Right. And if you ever need encouragement, you call me, and I promise you, I will tell you to start hanging around with like-minded people. I mean, it all sort of comes together, but there's nothing that you cannot do. If you guys want to have the greatest sports podcast, then you can do that. Right, for sure. I promise you. Right, yeah. And I expect that's what's going to happen.
Hey, man, thank you. So we really, really, really appreciate you, Miss Iciss. 918 Talk of the Town. Make sure you subscribe. This is season 2, episode 2. Special guest, Miss Tillis. Thank you again. We're at the McLean Barbershop. We're not at Rod's house. That was just one episode. We're at the McLean Barbershop.
Shout out to our guy Evan for the shirts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.